Welcome to episode 19 of the Self-Care 101 podcast with your host, Pooja K. McClymont, helping people achieve their full potential with effective self-care through wellbeing coaching. Thank you so much for listening today. On this episode, I interview Anna Davidson, a survivor of domestic violence who is starting to share her experience with others who may need help. Domestic abuse will affect 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men in their lifetime. This leads to, on average, 2 women being murdered each week and 30 men a year, and accounts for 16% of all violent crime. However, it is still the violent crime least likely to be reported to the police. Domestic violence has more repeat victims than any other crime. On average, there will have been 35 assaults before a victim calls the police, and it's the single most quoted reason for becoming homeless. In addition, approximately 400 people commit suicide each year who have attended hospital for domestic abuse injuries in the previous 6 months. 200 of these attend hospital on the day they go on to commit suicide. This is not only an inspiring story of resilience, strength and determination, it's also a moving, sad and frightening one. I found this my hardest episode to do, and you'll hear how I couldn't even find the words to speak with Anna, for she truly has lived a remarkable life so far, and my awe for her journey has left me not only in tears but also speechless. Anna is a strong woman. She shares her story of working in a successful corporate career, being the breadwinner in a loving marriage, to taking redundancy and everything she knew and trusted being taken from her. She is currently using her strength as a highly successful entrepreneur and gets to spend more time with her beautiful children whilst prioritising her own self-care to continue surviving. For anyone experiencing domestic violence, please seek help as soon as possible. You've got such an incredible journey, incredible story to tell, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Right, yeah, okay, on the spotlight I am. No, it's a pleasure to be here, and if just sharing my story can kind of help other people or even just inspire other people to make a bit of a difference in this world, then I feel like I've done my job, really. Because my story is quite a difficult story, really, because it comes from the heart, and actually this is the second time I've shared it, really, sort of publicly. So just as regards to kind of business, like my background, I've spent years in the corporate world. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for years, left university, went straight into a job, went through that sort of corporate ladder. And it wasn't until sort of when I had children, which I think a lot of mums can always relate to, that I decided that I wanted a bit more freedom and flexibility. And I kind of moved into the online world, which I'll come to more detail about. But on that kind of journey, I suppose, I think life, we have all these things that we kind of, society says that we need to tick off, get married, have children. And I was kind of really doing well in the corporate world, moving up that corporate ladder, was getting promotions, was in an industry where, there was big bonuses and all that kind of thing. And then I met my life partner, and I'd always said that I wanted somebody who would support me in my career, because I kind of wasn't the typical woman, I suppose, because I didn't really want to stay at home with the kids at that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Sounds familiar.
It wasn't until I had the kids, if you know what I mean, that I kind of realised I wanted a bit more flexibility. Yeah. So I felt like I needed to meet someone who was going to be supportive, but also, would get stuck into things like cooking and, household things, rather than that sort of typical role of the man does this and the woman does it. So I was kind of like the breadwinner of our family. Met, the love of my life, got married, and it wasn't until I started, I think a lot of people probably relate to this, challenges start happening when you have children.
Oh, yeah.
They
do indeed. They don't tend to tell you about that, but yeah, they do.
And I also think that I think also men get pushed aside a little bit in that process. It's me sort of analysing the past. Because I suppose in relationships, they are your number one. And then when you have children, they become sort of maybe second place initially, because you're nurturing and, looking after your babies.
Yeah.
but, you know, as a unit, you've got to make sure that you're spending time with your partner and all that kind of stuff. So I basically, our relationship started having challenges. Initially, it was just like the normal stuff, you know, like maybe I think because I was the breadwinner, I started to begrudge it a little bit and wanted a little bit more. I was looking at opportunities online, a little bit more freedom and flexibility, and felt like the pressure was on my shoulders a bit. And obviously, for years, I had been the driver, and he wasn't so much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But then, literally, it feels like, it sounds so sort of surreal in saying it, but it was literally like gradually, and it felt like overnight, I realised that I was in a very abusive relationship. Things just gradually crept up on me that I think because I was always the breadwinner and a driven person, I was really reluctant to admit it because, you know, people saw me as a strong character. So to be in an abusive relationship, you had to be like subservient, you know what I mean, in my head. So I was like, I was in denial for a long period of time. And it wasn't until there was violent episodes and he strangled me that I really realised, oh my God, like this has just got so bad. And
what were the things? Because you said it slowly started creeping up on you. What kind of things were happening?
so there was different arguments. I'd found out that he'd cheated on me. I forgave him because I felt like at the time, because at the same time I was setting up an online business. So I'd had my second child. There was redundancy on the table at work with my job, and I really wanted it. And I remember him looking really disappointed when I got the redundancy. And I felt really gutted that he looked really like disappointed because that's all I'd been going on about for about 12 months. So I felt like he had misunderstood me, but I think he was thinking, shit, you know, she's been made redundant. But there was we were gradually sort of like separating, you know, like you know, when your partner, your sort of like soulmate, you understood the same goals and all those kind of things, but we were disagreeing on lots of different things, and we were having arguments, and then the arguments started to go way out of control. And then obviously finding out that he'd cheated on me was a complete, you know, gut-wrenching incident, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Because I managed to kind of put it in my head as, well, actually this was just a sex thing, and I've got a much more longer term secure relationship with him. I've got to be able to forgive him and get over this because I married him for life, and you know, there's always going to be things that you've got to get over, and as long as I can build that trust back, this is what all the kind of mind work that I was doing on myself at the time.
Right.
That didn't obviously happen instantly. Do you know what I mean? I was obviously really gutted for a while, but
yeah, I was gonna ask you how did you decide that you wanted to sort of like forgive him for that and take him back?
Because I felt that there was, at the same time, there was loads of other things going on. So there was pressure financially because I had this lump sum of redundancy and I was trying to build like an online business as well. So there was like a financial pressure, even though it wasn't like we were completely broke. It just, I could see that I had this pot of money and it was going to gradually go, you know, we needed to make sure that we were earning. And he was also spending a lot of time getting into like spiritualism, which I feel that I've always been very spiritual, but what he was getting involved with was, in my eyes, like devil worshipping. So I was kind of like worried about him mentally in some respects.
Sure.
And there was obviously, so in a way, him cheating on me seemed like very low down compared to everything else that was happening. I know that sounds bizarre to say, but it was like every day it was like firefighting with the whole situation, and obviously having to look after two children and making sure that there wasn't any dramas that were going to affect them. So it all seemed to, this is why I'm saying like overnight, it obviously wasn't overnight, it was over like a 2 or 3 year period. It was gradually getting worse. And I'm somebody that can help other people, help a lot of friends with they've had problems or any dramas that go on, and can kind of logically sit down and say, right, let's look at their point of view. Let's not be irrational. And I'm quite a laid back person. So I'm trying to do it within myself, like from so I kept having these proactive conversations with him where we would agree, but then the next day it would just go back to how it was. It was really weird. So I was like climbing this mountain, but then it would just go like throw me back down the hill again. Because I'm a solution person. So I was just trying to find a solution, thinking, everybody has problems. There's lots of things that I can see that are building up here, and we just need to strip it back and work out a plan and solve it. Because
so you were trying to sort of fix the violence almost, like you would like a work task.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, because when he strangled me, I kind of put that down to like a one-off episode. Obviously, initially I didn't, but when I analysed it, I thought he's never done anything like that before. But then he was starting to accuse me of cheating on him. I think maybe because I forgave him so easily. And this then became his obsession, that every time I was out somewhere, I was getting accused of X, Y, and Z. And I was going to, I remember going to this hotel that I knew all the staff pretty well, because I used to go for years in the corporate world. And I was meeting people with like my new business that I was doing. And then I found out he was ringing the hotel, and then he was saying to me that they had CCTV camera, that they'd seen me go in with a guy and stuff. And I was like, geez, my life feels really boring, because I'm like, I met this girl. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish it was like I was meeting some guy and going in the room. Do you know what I mean? But that energy that was on me on like a daily basis, because I was becoming like, I was expecting the unexpected all the time. What was going to happen next? How was he going to come home? What mood was he going to be in? What this, what that, all the time. So it was giving me a really high level of stress.
Did he do anything in front of the kids?
There was a couple. There was like, there was argument stuff. There was one thing that I was really didn't let go afterwards, like kept going on to him about, that he burnt all our wedding photos in front of the boys.
Gosh.
And it was Jacob, who's 12 now. He was 7 at the time. And my youngest probably won't remember it, but my eldest still remembers it now. And he was crying because it was the photos of mum and dad.
Yeah.
Would be,
Yeah.
And so he kept doing random bizarre things like that. I think it was to try and get a reaction off me to go, no. What I would do if there was anything that happened that was weird or bizarre, I would just say to the boys, come on, let's go to the park, we're going out, and we'd just go out.
Right.
I'd think of them thinking, I need to get them out of this energy scenario sort of thing.
And he didn't sort of chase you or anything like that. He would let you go with the kids.
Yeah. There was one towards the end. There was one incident where he kept one of them, and I left with the other one, and then I had to go back and get the other one. And that was all very dramatic. Because then what happened was there was things that happened that I dealt with myself, and then as I say, it started to escalate where I would lock myself in the bedroom. Luckily, we had locks on the doors. Like, I've never had a house with locks on the doors.
Right.
But that house did. And I remember I rang the police because he was just really scaring me, and I didn't know what he was going to do. So I locked myself in the bedroom with the boys. And so then police incidents started to happen, and I was living with a bag in my boot of my car that had like a couple of outfits for me, a couple of outfits for the boys, and our passports. So I knew that if I had to leave and it was going to be for good, I just needed to take my laptop, because in a drama or in an argument, you can't suddenly start packing, because then that person is like, what are you doing? And it's making the drama worse. You need to just go. And I look back on that now and I think, I actually can't believe that I had that. Why didn't I just go? I think loads of times I questioned that. Why didn't I just go? But I didn't want to leave. I got to the point where I knew it was going to end and I knew I was going to leave, but I was trying to convince him that it had ended. You know, I was trying to say, because again, I was trying to find a solution and a plan, and I was trying to say, look, you know, this has gone really bad. We need to split. We need to work out what we're going to do to save our children, kind of thing. Because
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, because basically I thought if I leave without doing that, I would have further problems, which I've been trying to do that, and I have had further problems. I've now had to have injunctions, and I've now got a 5-year restraining order, and he's now got a criminal record that I didn't want him to have. But I've had to protect myself and also just kind of say, no, you can't keep doing this, kind of thing.
So what made you leave? What was was there a moment? Did something happen, an event?
Yeah, well, there'd been lots of different things, obviously, different scenarios. You know, a week would go by or a couple of weeks and everything would be okay, but I'd still be kind of walking on eggshells. But then there was one incident where I can't even remember how this argument started, but he, like, I think I was clearing the table or something, the dining table, and I had a plate in my hand, and he, like, hit it out of my hand, like, with his hand, and it went up in the air and smashed on the floor. And my son ran downstairs and got, you know, those tiny, tiny bouncy balls that are really bouncy. He got that and he threw it at the back of his dad's head. And I know it was like to distract him, to sort of kind of protect me. And it was, and then he ran back upstairs. And it was that. I just thought, I can't believe, you know, I'm sure he was like 7, 8 at the time. Is like trying to save me. This is getting me. I felt like my soul was dying, and I thought, this is not good for my children. Because you don't want to split because you want to be a family unit. And, you know, you want to do everything you've possibly done to keep together. But it was that made me think, I'm not teaching them the right values. I don't want them to think this is acceptable. You know, they can't live in this environment. But then I think it wasn't like instantly that I left. It was just that then I was focusing on my plan to get out of there and what I was going to do, because the house was in my name, and I knew he wouldn't leave, because I'd had times where he'd gone and I'd put my foot down and said, you need to just move out for a couple of weeks. And then I would get so much harassment that he would then come back. I'd just give in and let him come back. So I knew that I just knew that I had to get out and move from that house.
And were you doing all of this on your own, or were you seeking support from either the authorities or other groups, or, you know, was it just you on your own in this?
I remember speaking to someone, I think it may have been from Women's Aid. I had one conversation, but I did a lot of Googling. You know, like we all go to the internet, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
The police were involved, and I remember the police trying to sort of persuade me to press charges, but not by saying, we're not trying to persuade you. We're not trying to do anything, but if you think that this is going to continue to happen, you really need to take action. And I said, no, he's lost his way a little bit. I don't want. I look back on that, I think if I'd done something then, my life would have been easier after I left. But when you're in it, and it's, you know, because for me it was like he'd changed, and I never really believed that someone could sort of completely change. But I think it was just like a gradual thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of, yeah. So it wasn't until after I left that I got more support, and from like different sort of charities, and, you know, through the police, really. The police referred me to different charities like Women's Aid and the domestic violence. Basically, I can't remember what they stand for. It's domestic violence injunction. Basically, to get an injunction. The police have given me this card quite a few times, and they ask all these sets of questions that put you in that box to get this referral. But you have to do it yourself, sort of thing, and I haven't done it. And then it was when I left I did, because I felt that when I left everything would calm down, but it actually got a lot worse. Which now, reading up on a lot of stuff with domestic abuse and violence, you know, when you leave, it's actually one of the most dangerous parts.
And I think, I mean, you know, the little that I know about it, about domestic violence and about how difficult it is for women to leave, there's a lot of I've heard and read a lot that it is really hard to leave because of what can happen. So, I mean, it was a big thing for you to obviously decide to leave. And then, how are you feeling then? Were you more scared when you left him than when you were with him?
It was a bit of a mixture really, because I was not sleeping really.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't sleeping in that house because I just was expecting the unexpected all the time. So it was a real massive relief to be able to just get in my own bed and be able to sleep, lock the door and sleep. And the first kind of couple of months there wasn't that much problems, and then it just started to really escalate again with him turning up at the house and stuff. So, yeah, it was. I suppose it was more when is this going to stop? And in some respects, things still haven't stopped because, and I've actually grown to just live with it, because I've still got court hearings now with
Live with what?
With the children's situation. I've got children hearings, and also I'm divorced, but we've still got the finances to sort out. So, and that's 4.5 years later. But it's got so much better because I took action really, because I think a lot of people are scared to take action, but then you look back and you wish you'd taken action earlier, because you can't reason with an unreasonable person. You just can't. So no matter, I've tried everything to reason with him over the years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes people who, and I actually think it's because I've done a lot of self-development over the years, because obviously being in the corporate world, kind of pushed into that anyway, as a kind of, I suppose, a process. And then I've always been someone who's been really into kind of mindset stuff. And I think when, I've always been a positive person generally. Do you know what I mean? Okay, there's been down times where we all have times where we're just like, I can't be bothered. But I always look at things from a positive point of view. And I think if you're somebody that's never done any self-development, because this is where I look at, I suppose, him, he was sort of always anti all that kind of thing. Then you come from this thing of blame and anger and bitterness and feel sorry for me attitude. Whereas I even though the police used to call me a victim all the time, I used to hate that word, because I used to think, I see a lot of domestic abuse people talk about being a survivor, and I suppose it is looking at it from that point of view. But I was in back, a lot of it. This is why I've not spoken about it so much, because I felt a real shame on it, because I wanted to. I come from a positive place, so I never felt like the victim. I've never had that poor me attitude.
And you sound like I mean, obviously you're a strong person for leaving, but you sound like someone who's a strong person. And when I was stalking you on Facebook, I saw a post that you wrote. I saw a post that you wrote for the new year, and it really got me, like, to the core. It really just spoke to me. And you were reflecting on your resilience. And I think when you're such a resilient person, obviously you had a plan with work, you're in a corporate leadership role, so you've come from a very empowered place, like you can build self-confidence through your work so easily. And it does tend to get marred with your personal life, because when you're in a relationship, it's a different dynamic to being at work, and it is about compromising, isn't it? And being trying to look after each other's needs, and then obviously with kids and the dynamics that brings. So it's very different. You don't necessarily want to be that sort of hardcore dominant role in your personal life, because you're doing it day to day. You kind of like that equality.
Yeah, exactly.
But then this I can understand then where being called a victim would feel uncomfortable, because you're like, well, no, I'm a strong, resilient woman. But then how did I let that happen? Because it's not you letting it happen.
No, but that
It's
is what I.
happened.
Yeah, that's how I felt though. I did
Mm,
feel like that.
mm,
How did I let that happen completely? Because I think that was what I battled with in my head, because I am such a strong person, and I'm kind of like a
mm,
leader and all that kind of thing. And I also battled with the fact that I've got mixed race children, and he was a black guy, and I didn't want, and this is me being really, really honest, I
mhm.
really didn't want to be a single parent with mixed race children, because I felt like society puts a real tag on that. Because
What sort of tag?
would well, I remember when I was married and it was all happy. I remember like just going to, I think it was the doctors or the dentist, and them saying to me, "Are you married?" They were asking me different questions. Said, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yeah." And she went, "Oh, you're married?" Like really surprised.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
and just I don't know, just like this stereotype that a white woman with mixed race children is not going to be married. The black man has been, I think what I'm saying is, just generally, it sounds so bad to say, but there is a stereotype that black men treat the women badly, and that is not the case, because I know a lot of black men that treat their women very well, but I didn't want to be assumed by society that that was the case.
Yeah.
And this is just me
No,
being
I mean,
honest, with a lot of assumptions and prejudice and racial thing. There was that hung over my head, as well as letting my parents down as well, because they're still together and married for
mm,
God knows how many years. They're in their 70s and have been married since they were 20, 50 years, whatever it is.
yeah.
And so there was a lot of, all these things that were going around in my head, that I didn't want to let other people down. I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to, so that's why I hung on so much, kept thinking, we can get through this and past this, because even now I still look back and think, I don't think that he's a really horrible, nasty person. I
Mm,
just think that he lost his way a little bit, and actually he needs to do more self focus, self
yeah.
development and focus. Because I don't
Self-development.
think
Yeah.
anybody's a really nasty person, but I've seen that how controlling and dominating he was.
Mm,
Um, and even though he had, a very good sort of jokey personality, that was kind of hidden from me, even maybe earlier when I was happy.
yeah. I mean, we could, especially with your own experiences, we could really explore what could have possibly motivated him to do what he did, what could have been happening with him. But I'll be honest with you, I only care about you right now. So
Yeah, exactly. I think it always comes from an insecurity, doesn't it? All those behaviours of like maybe arrogance and blame and ego come from
Mm,
insecurity or fear.
yeah,
So I realised that the person I thought was really strong actually is probably really insecure and has a lot of fear, and that's what the issue is.
yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
just ask why. I kept asking
we
why, because we were like the perfect couple at one point, and people
right.
used to look up to us as the perfect couple.
Mm,
And it's funny how you can be that and then literally a downward spiral. Um, so
yeah.
yeah,
I just can't imagine. It's so heart-wrenching, like to hear that story, and just just imagining what you could have possibly, I mean, it would only just be imagining what you could have possibly gone through during that time, the not knowing, and then experiencing various different episodes and trying to obviously fix the situation, because it is marriage takes work, yada yada. I can see completely where you're coming from and why you would have been looking for solutions. I think that's, that you were trying to save your marriage, and obviously for
yeah,
the kids as well. So I think obviously it's completely admirable what you've done, and the fact that you actually did get to leave. And I'm so sorry that it's still difficult for you. Like, you're not, the kids obviously are going to want to see him. So what have you done, I guess, during all of this time, and even now? How do you look after yourself through all of this? Because obviously he had some mental challenges. There's definitely some mental health issues there, but for yourself, it can also creep up, right? And
yeah.
affect you I mean, you could have easily fallen into a deep depression. Obviously you've got kids, you're trying to run a business. How have you managed to survive, I guess, in that sense as well?
I think when I remember at my lowest, when I was still there in that house, as I put it in my mind,
Mm,
um, I remember on a daily basis, I look at it now, and it was doing like you know how people do like a gratitude journal and things like that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't realise that's what I was doing, because I wasn't writing anything down. I'd just wake up and think. I just immediately would think of two or three things that I was grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And it was usually around the boys being healthy, and because I used to think it must be horrendous if your child's got a terminal illness, and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to think of people's scenarios that were worse than me, or even I was still financially independent, so there could be other women that were in my situation who were financially dependent, and I think that's got to be even tougher to get out.
Yeah.
So I used to those were the things that were kind of like 999 self-care to kind of get me through the day. And then once I left, my sleep pattern was so horrendous, and still sometimes I don't sleep that well. But I've done a lot of things focusing on my sleep, and this last 12 months really got into meditation.
Right.
Meditating sort of twice a day if I can, but definitely, at the end of an evening once the boys were in bed.
What was happening or is happening with your sleep? I mean, when you say you couldn't sleep very well, what does that mean? Is it insomnia? Is it that you can't get your mind to settle?
Yeah, so I think I suffered with, or I haven't. I'd say probably the last 6 months I've been pretty good, but because there was a lot of drama happening when I left, with him turning up at the house and doing different things, and the boys waking up and having nightmares about dad's gonna come and stab you. I had a dream that dad came and stabbed you to death and things.
Oh my God.
So then it would make me have bizarre dreams. So just bizarre dreams that would wake me up, and then I couldn't get back to sleep, and just being really, having anxiety at bedtime, like palpitations and that kind of thing. But my sleep pattern has got so much better now, and the boys, because we've just had quite a lot of stability recently, and you get back into kind of routines, don't you?
What sort of therapies did you take up then? Because meditation's good and stuff, but obviously with the kids as well, I'm assuming you've taken some level of talking therapy, or
like just guided meditation. Really, I just followed quite a few people online, and then watched YouTube things. So I need to do more on it, really, because I want kind of like a more focused plan. I was following a guy who was saying that I needed to cut ties with the archangels, and I was like, I definitely need to cut ties. So yeah, just guided meditation just before I go to bed to help me fall asleep. And I have Alexa in my bedroom as well, who now is asking me if I want meditation when I go to bed. Sometimes I just unplug her because I think she's weird and she knows everything about my life. But yeah, she's got to know my habits. It was so funny recently. She literally said, I get in bed and I will say, right, can you set an alarm for 7 a.m? And she always says to me, yes, your alarm is set for every weekday at 7 a.m. So I go, okay, thank you. And it's the same conversation I have with her every night. And then sometimes I'll say, have you got any chill out music or meditation tracks that I like? And then she'll play something. And then literally, this was a few weeks ago, I said about the alarm, and then she said, would you like me to play a meditation track to help you get to sleep? Oh, Jesus Christ, this is better than a man.
Let's not get started on how scared I am of AI technology, because I think that, I've watched far too many movies.
I know, exactly, same as me on Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
Logging her down. But I use her as an alarm clock or for music. So, but yeah, when I'm going through periods of time where I feel like I'm not sleeping or sleep's bad, I always have like a lavender oil bath and then play out. Just even if it's just London Grammar, I like London Grammar. Just chill out music, just to wind myself down and just trying to meditate in my own thought, in my own way, because I think meditation can be quite personal to you. I used to think that you had to be doing yoga and sit in a certain way and be doing certain things, but really meditation is just actually completely switching off. And every time something comes into your brain, just reject it and just really try and just have a bit of peaceful moment within yourself and just think of nothing.
Yeah.
which is quite hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, with I use Ayurvedic principles when I'm helping clients with meditation, and in meditation, like traditional terms, it's not about silencing your mind, because you can't do that. The brain is active for a reason. So all you can do is just acknowledge the thought and let it move on, because you
Yeah.
want to just calm it down. So you don't do anything with the thought when it comes into your mind, except one of my clients, actually, he shared with me a little technique that I've sort of carried on and like shared with other clients, and he just shushes the thought. So the thought will come in and he will physically just put his sort of like finger to his mouth and go shh, and it just sort of dissipates. And I mean, there's various different techniques. And also, when you're starting out in meditation, it doesn't have to be sitting on the floor with a candle burning and chanting Om, because, Om is a religious sound. So if you don't connect to that religion, it's not going to work for you. So I always tell clients, as a starting point with meditation, just start walking. Don't take any music with you. Just walk and just look around you, because obviously in today's technology filled society, we're generally heads down in a phone, aren't we? Or we've always got music on, or we're always reading something, or we're advertising is still rife everywhere. So we don't necessarily detach from our actual day to day. The walk to the station, do you know what I mean, is filled with so much distraction. So any time that you can be quiet, no distractions, and literally just look at the trees, look at the sky.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Keep it simple.
I found that walks or just sort of being in nature is really it's really healing, actually.
It is, and it's really good. Like, it's an activity I do with my son all the time. Me and my husband, like, he'll do it separately to me, but every day that we're sort of home with him for the whole day, part of the day is going for a walk and doing nothing on that walk except literally just taking in what's around us. And it's always really delightful, because I see and experience different things, and my 4-year-old sees and experiences different things, and then we sort of talk about it over dinner, which is quite nice. And it also sort of, because he's a kid, it's instilling good meditative habits at a very young age, something that he can relate to and always sort of fall back on if he's having a tough time. Well, hopefully we'll see if that plan works. Ask me again in another 10 years.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about meditation, though, about accepting it and letting it go, because I don't know where I got that from, but it wasn't really with meditation. It's something that I'll use now. But I was just like, because I've had lots of different things along the way, like, really, really stressful court hearings I've had to prepare for. And I'm now representing myself, so I put all that pressure on myself as well. And preparing, just being stressed the night before, because it's always horrible to come into like a conflict situation with him as well. And so then after a day in court, you feel completely wiped out as well, and there's loads of emotion and loads of things going on in your head. And I don't know if it was something I read, but I used to sort of beat myself up for being like that, because I was like, I've got work to do, I've got children, I've got to get back to normal. But I've realised I just like accept that feeling, accept that it's happening, and just sort of feel it and just like let it go. You know what I mean? Like, just have those moments to sort of not let it absorb me, but just let it happen, rather than fighting that feeling, because fighting that feeling is what gives you the stress.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Oh, yeah. I completely agree with you. There's another way of doing it. Well, there's two ways. When you're walking, every step that you take, you can give it to the earth. So you can sort of like step each stress into the earth. And that's another way of sort of, I guess, more tangibly acknowledging the thought that is coming into your mind. It can be quite powerful, especially if you're somewhere really, really quiet, like a big park or a forest or something. And then another technique is really good in the water. So because the water can obviously make you feel quite, what's the word? Because you're floating and you're quite light.
Yeah.
It's just being in the water and moving your arms, your hands around the water. You can also use that metaphorically to sort of push the stresses away. So I'm very pro water. as well as another
I love swimming.
exercise, and you can just do it in the bath. You love swimming?
Yeah, swimming is my thing. I'm not really a gym person, because that was another thing I was going to say. It's only like this last probably 18 months that I'd like neglected myself as regards to exercise and stuff. And we were saying before we recorded about how I've been on a bit of a health kick this last couple of weeks with the new year. But last year I went back to going swimming again, because being on my own with the boy is difficult. I'd have to do it in the daytime, and then I'm working, and it was all kind of. And I thought, no, I need to prioritise it. With this whole self-care thing, I need to. I was prioritising them to making sure they were doing football and cricket, because I thought that releases, because they've had anxieties and stress, and that helps them release stuff. And I thought, I'm doing all this for everybody else, because this is what you do, isn't it? You do it for everybody else, and then you neglect yourself.
Yep.
So yeah, I started. Swimming is my thing. I don't really like gym, and I don't mind exercise groups and things, but gym, I think I just find it really boring, and I'd need a personal trainer, and I don't know. I just enjoy swimming, really.
Yeah, swimming's great. It's one of my faves as well. Definitely love it. So I think we can wrap up here, but I wanted to ask you if you had any specific tips for anybody who's potentially in a similar situation to when you were, for how to, I guess, get out, or what type of resilience they need, or I don't know, any sort of tips for anybody.
I think your gut instinct, or your gut instinct is always right. So something, if you really feel like you're fighting against like the waves, and you keep coming back to the same point, your gut instinct's always right. And actually what you believe is failure isn't failure, because I feel like I've got a whole new lease of life, and actually I feel like everything's happened for a reason. It's actually all part of my story to do good in the world now. I actually think in some respects I'm grateful for it happening, which sounds bizarre.
Yeah,
I am, because I feel like it's made me a more enriched person, because I've spent a lot of time on my own and working on myself, which I wouldn't have had. And I was probably more focused on material things before, and you really realise what's important in life. Which I'm sure anybody that has any kind of adversity, even bereavement or anything that I suppose is seen as a bad thing that happened, actually does make you who you are, and actually you can kind of reverse engineer it and kind of make it into something good. So if you do feel like you're fighting against a tidal wave, you just go with your gut instinct and don't see things as, because I think society makes you feel like, and the social media doesn't help, because social media gives you the impression that everybody's got a perfect world, when actually it's fake book, not Facebook, isn't it? So
absolutely,
you've got to just go with your gut, and also make sure that you look after you. And if you are drinking alcohol, make sure you reduce the alcohol. And think about your body and your well-being as regards to all the things that we know that we should be doing.
Yes,
actually make us have more energy. The things I've been doing this year with having a lot more fruit and vegetables, and vitamin B12 has really given me a real big kick of energy. And I think sometimes we just get stuck, don't we, where we're doing the same thing, and
we get stuck in life, and we get stuck in doing for others, be that work, be that kids, be that family. It completely does. And I think you're definitely doing the right thing for yourself now, putting yourself first, self-care 101, all those wonderful things for your health. I think it's great. I mean, what a journey, what an inspiring story, what an inspiring journey. Like I'm sitting here and talking to you, and I don't know what to say, because I'm just so myself. I'm like, wow. And I think I have problems, like,
well, it's funny now when like the normal things happen, like like you say, your tire blows on the motorway, or you have a car accident, or you're selling your house and the buyer pulls out. All those things now, I don't care. Like, it's really funny how I've changed. Like, even my mum said to me recently, God, you don't seem to be really bothered, like, sort of get a grip type of thing. And I was like, oh, well, it's one of those things, we'll just deal with it, because I suppose when you've had worse things. It just seems
Yeah.
insignificant. So that's another great thing, really. At least I won't
The
stress
power
it.
of perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely think one last thing is always making sure you've got, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes for yourself, doing something for yourself.
Mm.
Whether it be watching something on Netflix or reading something, and it's hard to do that because sometimes you just get so tired, don't you, after your day.
Oh God, yeah,
But it's good
completely.
to try and have just a certain amount of time in the day for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's what you've just shared is just superb. And it's just that 15, 20 minutes, isn't it? If you can find that just for you, doing something that brings you joy, it will just help you get through your day in, so much more easily. Definitely.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now, Anna? I understand there is a book launch coming.
Yeah, well, I have, there's a book launch, and there was 15 of us, female entrepreneurs, have all done a chapter, and it's
Mm-hmm.
She Made It Happen, and it's out at the end of this month. And really inspiring stories, actually. Lots of people have had different adversities in there, who sort of turned their life around, and mainly online businesses as well. I obviously, my kind of field is I am a digital marketer, an e-commerce expert, and focus on helping people import products and launch their own physical brands on Amazon mainly, but online. Because with my previous sort of corporate world, I headed up quite a lot, a lot of the big brands. I've got a lot of branding experience.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so I'm going to do something good this year as regards to kind of all my stuff as well. I really want to give back a bit more and help people who may feel stuck or just want to do something a bit different and launch an online business, but helping them with their like resilience and mindset and just believing in themselves really, and doing something a bit different and purposeful really, because I've got involved with a charity as well that helps. It actually helps women in refuges, the children in refuges. These buddy bags that it's called the Buddy Bag Foundation, and it's for kids who suddenly are taken out of their home and have nothing. So this bag has like pajamas and toothbrush, toothpaste, and a little toy and different things inside, to sort of start them on their new life. And because I'm really grateful that didn't actually happen to me.
Yeah.
But obviously I had my own kind of buddy bag in my boot for 8 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the time to give back now and sort of inspire others really to say that, if I can have launched a business and a successful business throughout this whole difficult period, then anybody can really.
Absolutely. Like I say, thank you so much for being on the show. You are just such an inspiration. I'm actually lost for words. I feel so embarrassed what a shoddy host I am, but I've literally just been sitting here listening to you, making notes, feeling, the perspective shifts. And I mean, we talk about when you're a coach, you also have a coach, and I do actually have a coach, but I'm like, I might just hire you for just that up leveling of resilience, because it's next level. And obviously your life experience is it's just listen to me, I don't even know what to bloody say. Like, just rubbish. Anna, right, I'm going to end the show. Thank you so much for being on this show. Thank you so much for the journey, the resilience, everything that you've been through, and for everything that you are doing and you're going to be in this world. I'm just so grateful for your existence, and I wish you every ounce of happiness that is possible. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Totally. Thank you. Well, what an incredible woman. And as you heard, I couldn't find the words. I still can't find the words. I can't even imagine what she has gone through. And for anyone who's ever been through anything like this, it's so scary and overwhelming. And beyond frightening, obviously, to go through something like that, but then to be able to come out the other side and find a way to survive and find a way to be strong and protect her mental well-being, protect her children, and actually still continue to live life is something that I guess from a perspective point of view, we can all do with some perspective when we're feeling like the chips are down. And like Anna says, she doesn't sweat the small stuff now, so maybe we should take a leaf out of her book. Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would subscribe and review so that other people like you can find the show. For more tips and tricks, you can follow me on the socials at Frankly Coaching, or visit my website to find out more about my coaching programs and how to work with me at franklycoaching.com.